Time to upgrade your adventure with an RV from Motorsportsland. Don't put off making exciting memories and exploring the many outdoor hideaways right here in Utah. Come in today and see how Motorsportsland can help you get away, or visit motorsportsland.com.
You're not really ready until you're safe. Summer safely and drive calm.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Where KSL offers Utah deeper insights on the news. Host Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason and elevates the conversation on issues crucial to our community. On KSL News Radio 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Well, as many of you know, I often am critical of big, massive bills in Congress that have thousands of pages that nobody reads, that gets things stuffed into all kinds of nooks and crannies that are never good for the American people in the end. We've also talked about how in the world they come up with the names for these bills. I think there's a lot of strategy behind it, and was really pleased this week. Our associate producer, Bella, found a fantastic piece by Jesse Rifkin in Roll Call, talking about this simple fix for the polarizing of our processes, especially in Congress, and joins us now on the line. Thanks for jumping on today.
Hey, great to be on with you. Thank you.
So this is something I've complained about forever, but you took it to a new level. I love your approach in terms of what the purpose is behind all of this. How do you see it playing out in Washington, D.C.?
How do I see it playing out in Washington, D.C.? Well, as you mentioned, there are thousands of bills introduced in Congress each year, and some of them are named in ways that I think hurt their odds of passage, in ways that play more to the lead sponsor's political base, rather than really trying to cultivate bipartisanship across the aisle, which, as we know, with the filibuster is the only way to get it to pass the Senate these days.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I want to break this into two parts, Jesse, from your piece, and that is, one, I think there are times when they are so playing just to their base because they know that regardless of what the bill is called, it has no chance of getting any traction or moving anywhere, so they are doing a purely political play. Or they're trying to do it for a fundraising kind of approach, so they can get their social media moment.
That's exactly right. In my op-ed for Roll Call last week, I spotlight several examples of this. Here's one. There is essentially in the tax code, there is something called the marriage penalty, where some married couples can be accidentally subjected to a higher tax burden because they're married than they would be if they had each been filing jointly. This was essentially created by accident. Nobody intended for it to be there in either party. It's basically there as a loophole. A bill to repeal that provision should be able to attract widespread bipartisan support. But the main proposal to do it in Congress right now was introduced by a Republican, and it was titled the Make Marriage Great Again Act. A funny name, perhaps, but one that's going to be hard to attract Democratic support at a time when Democrats control both the House and the Senate. Yeah,
that's right. And whichever Democratic representative voted for Make the Marriage Great Again would be facing a primary challenger in their next election. So it hurts them with their own base for sure. I've always said that if you ever want a bill passed, it should be either called the We Shall Have Clean Air or the In Search of Puppies and Ice Cream bill. I think those are the ones that are assured of getting a good vote.
Yeah, or the We Shall Have Clean Air along with Puppies and Ice Cream Act. That's the omnibus legislation.
There we go. We're bringing it all full circle there. You actually had an interesting example in there from David McCullough talking about the Truman administration. Just share that with us real quick.
Sure. So here's an example of what happens when you don't try to give the bill a super catchy name. Right after World War II, the U.S. wanted to help rebuild the devastated continent of Europe. The White House counsel at the time was a guy named Clark Clifford, and he wanted to name it the Truman Plan after then-President Harry Truman. But Harry Truman was relatively unpopular at the time, and Truman said, no, name it after Marshall instead, Truman's Secretary of State. Well, we now know it today as the Marshall Plan, which has been hailed as one of the most successful pieces of American legislation of all time and helps rebuild Europe. Because they didn't give it a name that would be polarizing, they gave it a name that would attract widespread support, and Marshall had more widespread support at the time than Truman did.
Yeah. Well, Jesse, I'm gonna have you try to help me. I'm going to come up with a bill. So my bill says that that any piece of legislation can only have one thing in it. So it's the one subject at a time bill. But I want to combine that with a naming of said bill with the "it is what it says it is" thing. So we need to come up with a title that will put those two concepts together so we can have pieces of legislation that only contain one thing, and the name of the bill is what it says it is. Any ideas?
The Call the Spade Act?
There we go. That may be a really good place for us to start. So anyway, great stuff. And it is, sadly, this is the source of a lot of the polarization that does happen in our country, is simply because the politicians are less concerned about what's in a bill and what it does for the American people and how much it costs the American people, and more concerned about, will this name of this bill and all that we can get thrown in it be good for me politically, which will be a name we'll have to have a super committee come up with later on. But Jesse Rifkin, great piece in Roll Call. Appreciate your writing and your work for GovTrack Insider, and we look forward to having you back on the program soon.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope to be there. And to Utah, I say good luck against the Clippers tonight.
Hey, now that's good. And just so you know, Jesse, we have included Mike Conley's hamstring and Donovan Mitchell's ankle as critical infrastructure. So we are looking forward to getting those funded and paid for and all healthy so we can win this series. But thanks for weighing in today.
Thanks so much.
All right. We're going to go ahead and step aside for a quick commercial break. I do think it's important that we do get the right names on these bills and that they are one subject or one issue at a time. That's a serious subject that we got to figure out how to do in Congress. Stay with us. Much more to come.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast Cold. Our brand new second season focuses on the 1985 disappearance of a woman named Joyce Yost. Hear her voice for the first time. That's Cold Season 2, exclusively on Amazon Music.